Hello, everyone. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. We are continuing on the My Tiers series, and today we have the exciting Dynasty tight ends. That's right. Try and contain yourself, Drew. It's tight ends. It's fucking fun.
Hey, man, I knew no one else was going to want to do it, so I was like, I'm going to take one for the team. I like my tight ends. I think you win your leagues by getting, especially in Dynasty, you win your leagues by drafting tight ends in the second and third round. So I was like, I'm going to jump on this podcast and help you out since no one else will want to.
I scheduled 32 of these in about 24 hours, and every post I set out was kind of generic, and then I got the replies. Everyone's, can I do Dynasty wide receivers? How about redraft wide? Everyone wanted fucking wide receiver. And then by the end, I'm just going, please, just do fucking tight ends.
I got you on this one.
This one wasn't even – the worst was best ball tight end or rookie tight ends. Like rookie tight ends, there's like literally 16 deep, and it's like, holy shit. So
yeah, well, I would say after the top three tight ends, it's like you're calling your shot on players because, you got Tucker Kraft, Luke Schoonmaker, just some random guys that you're just hoping to hit.
There are a handful of the tight ends in the rookie ones where I had to keep a list because I'd get to it, and I'm like, I don't even know who the fuck this guy is. So, but this one,
hey, Elijah Higgins, bro. I'm just calling my shot.
I moved him. I did. I took him out of the wide receiver one, and I put him in with the rookie tight ends.
Yep, he's going to be. I think he's going to be really good for the Dolphins. I know he's not going to be on this list, but that's just a guy that I'm calling my shot on right now.
I think it's 24 or 30 for this by ADP. But well, thanks for joining me, Drew. You want to take a second to promote yourself? Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm at Dynasty Drew FF on Twitter. I run my own podcast called The Life of a Dynasty League. Right now, we're really just doing sports Jeopardies, where we have some of the best creators in the stratosphere or in the Twitter sphere. We have those guys on, and they compete against each other. This week on Thursday, we have Akash, and then we have Zoltan, and we have Jacob Sanderson. So we have a big group a top group of guys on. And then just recently, a couple days ago, I got brought on to be a writer for the FF League Winners, which I'm really excited to show what I can do for that. So you can go find me on FF League Winners starting probably in a couple days. I'll have an article out, so you can find me there as well.
I think this is my third series I've done. My tiers, my rookie, my guys, and my team, or whatever the heck it was. My thoughts on my team. Three series in a row. Excuse me. I've tried to link up with Jacob Sanderson, and we just cannot make our schedules work. Every single time it's, hey, I can do Saturday at 1. I'm like, oh shit, I'm out of town. It's just, we cannot. He's there's 2 or 3 out there that I've just, no matter how hard we try, we haven't been able to get on the same page with schedules. But
yeah, no, I would say Akash beat JC because if you listen to the podcast I did with you last week, I brought up that JC couldn't lose, and Akash ended up beating him, and Akash was like, I'm going to find someone that I think might be able to beat me. And so he hit up Jacob Sanderson, and so now they're going to go against each other. It's like a rivalry that's going to be started. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that one. And we got 3 really smart-minded people on there, so it should be very fun.
All right, well, let's get into it. First guy here is the guy whose jersey you're wearing. We've got Mark Andrews.
I would say he's going all the way up into elite. He's my tight end 1. I just think that he's QB proof. We saw 2 years ago he was tight end 1. It ended the year super strong with Tyler Huntley. Then people were saying they're knocking him because he, possibly didn't have Lamar Jackson. Well, now Lamar Jackson's got his extension. He's only 27, and we see Travis Kelce is still playing great into his 32-year-old season. So I think he's good for at least 3 to 5 more elite seasons with Lamar Jackson's new contract extension. So he's elite.
All right, that was a pretty easy one. I figured that's where he would go. Now we have an interesting one. Greg Dulcich, or is that Weird Al Yankovic? I can't tell. Either way.
Could be either one. I think we're going to put him in average. I think he has the upside to get into that good to great tier. I think he has an upside, which some of these tight ends do not have. He, is getting paired up with Sean Payton, so it should be fun to see. But for right now, he's only an average.
I don't know what the hell Denver's doing with their tight ends. Everyone liked Alberto, then they draft Greg Dulcich, then Peyton comes in, and I think, shit, maybe Dulcich will be all right. Then he brings Adam Troutman with him from New Orleans, and as a Saints fan, I know he loves Troutman, so that really worries me for Dulcich. I think this entire tight end room is going to ruin each other. Moving on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the only thing is I'm not a big Troutman fan. I know you said Peyton is, but
I'm not either.
Wins out, and I think Dulcich is a way better tight end than Troutman.
We have Evan Ingram next.
That's tough. I'm gonna put him in good. I think he showed last year that he's a solid tight end, and he ended the year great.
I would agree. I think the only thing that worries me is what impact Calvin Ridley has, but I think the Jags are a good offense. There should be enough ball to go around. We have Zach Ertz here, who's a tough one because I project he's going to be out to start the season with injury, but let's just assume he's healthy. Where do you think he goes?
I still think he's in below average because, like we were talking about, we're playing Dynasty, and so I think he might have a year left, and he's still coming off an ACL injury. He's 32 or 33, I believe. So I think for Dynasty purposes, you're lucky to get another year out of him, and so I'm going to put him in below average.
It's a real shame to think that the best years of his career were spent basically tight end by committee with Dallas Goedert.
I know.
If he could have just got out, the two of them spent most of their, some of their best years together and just could have got him out. Next, we have someone I'm high on. I love this offense. I love Kellen Moore being the new coordinator. We have the Chargers' Gerald Everett.
I'm going to put him in average, which I think some people might be as a surprise for Dynasty. He might not be there after this year, but I love the upside for just this year to where he could be like a Evan Ingram last year, where he can be top 5 tight end at the end of the season and, win you some championships.
No, I agree. For this year, I would have had good, but it's Dynasty, so average is definitely fair. We got Pat Freiermuth.
See, this is where I might get a little slack. I am not a big Freiermuth fan for Dynasty or for like fantasy specifically. I don't think he's going to do much. I don't believe in Kenny Pickett. I'm going to put him in average. I think he could get into the good and great tier, but he's not someone that I'm really particularly high on. And he was one of my Dynasty sells early in the offseason.
Yeah, I think I have him as good, but not great. I won't argue at the Pickett. I'm not all that fond of. There's a lot of pass catchers there. I won't argue average. I probably would have had him in good. Next up, we have Mike Gesicki, who's now in the Patriots. That's a horrible landing spot.
Yeah, for Dynasty, I'm going to put him in bad. It's a bad situation. He's never been able to really do anything. So I don't see anything ever getting better. Like, he had the opportunity to go sign somewhere where he could show himself, prove himself as a tight end. And then he went to the Patriots. So
I don't understand it, but
yeah, it didn't make any sense to me either.
Dallas Goedert.
See, this is another one where, like we said, we're talking fantasy football. I think he's a top 3 to 5, tight end for NFL, but I'm going to just put him in the great tier. I don't think that he's elite just because he has Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown ahead of him. If you watch the Super Bowl, he made some incredible catches. You're like, how did he do that? But again, it's just tough for him as the third option, maybe even fourth with DeAndre Swift there. He's
just reliably tight end 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 every year. He's never really top 3. He's never outside of 7 or 8, but
and points per game. But did you know for like fantasy, he's never, with injuries and with Zach Ertz, he's never finished as a top 10 tight end in points. Now, points per game, he's always been, he's been 7 or 8, but in total points, he's never been top 10.
Oh yeah, because he's always injured or splitting with Ertz. Tyler Higbee.
This is a guy that I'm really high on for redraft, just because Matthew Stafford absolutely loves him for some reason. So I'm going to put him in average. I think that he's got a couple years left. I believe he has 2 years left on his contract, so I think he can be very good for you for a couple years.
TJ Hawkinson.
I'm going to put him in the great tier as well. I think he's right on that great to elite cusp. I think that he might not be your greatest actual tight end, but he's a great he was great last year with Kirk Cousins, so I love him next year and for the future.
Yeah, I think he's kind of the bridge from elite to great.
I say he's only 25, I believe. Still, he's still really young. 25 or 26.
Rookie contract still, rookie. Yeah.
Yep.
Juwan Johnson.
See, I'm not a big fan of Juwan Johnson. I'm going to put him in below average. I think people are just trying to force him to be good. I know you're a Saints fan, so I'll hear what you have to say, but I think the Foster Moreau situation, he's got signed to that 3-year extension. I think that does hurt him a little bit.
The Saints are a tough one to predict. Every year there's a new tight end who looks good, and then the following year he's like dead. Troutman, Juwan, I don't mind him. I have him stashed a few places, but I don't know. He's a decent late round flyer, but I don't think he's worth much more than that.
And I think that, a couple years ago, everyone was fighting, ooh, is it Juwan Johnson? Ooh, is it Adam Troutman? And then we found out that really, for fantasy purposes, it was neither of them.
Travis Kelce.
Yeah, you can throw him up in elite.
Which is amazing for a guy who may retire at the end of may retire at week 1. Like literally, he's listed in the elite tier and could retire tomorrow.
It's just he scored 5+ more points per game last year than any other tight end. I don't think that happens again this year, but that just shows the advantage you have with Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
This was the Double Down Jeopardy question on our podcast last week. Only 6 wide receivers finished with more points per game in non-tight end premium leagues, which is crazy. I think he had 18 points per game in non-tight end premium, so that's just insane for a tight end.
It's like Christian McCaffrey. At some point, you don't care how old he starts to get. It's just like, fuck it. Until he retires, I'm just going to keep drafting him, and then I'll get stuck with him 1 year, but until then, I'll do good. Dalton Kincaid.
I think you can put him in it's tough because we haven't seen anything from him. I'm a really big fan of him, so I'm going to put him in the good tier, but he can easily find himself into the elite tier in 2 years. The problem with rookie tight ends not, producing right away kind of worries me. Most of the time they don't do great their first year, so I'm going to put him in good, but he definitely can end up in the great to elite tiers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not sold on him. He was my tight end 3 out of the class, but I don't know. He has the potentials there. It's a crapshoot with tight end, but George Kittle.
So I'm going to put him in great as well. I think he's an elite tight end for NFL purposes, but for fantasy, like we talked about the 49ers, it's just there's so many players there that it's going to be tough to see. Now, if Brock Purdy starts, we saw what Kittle was able to do. Got a lot of touchdowns at the end of the year last year, but it's hard to predict that, so I'm going to put him in the great tier.
Here's a guy I'm particularly higher on, Cole Kmet.
Yeah, I'm going to put him in average. I think that he has the upside, whereas that's why I'm not going to put him in below average. He just, it's tough. He had a great stretch in the middle of the season when Fields started absolutely dominating because he was the only wide receiver there that could catch a ball. So
the last 8 games, he was tight end. I think tight end 4 it was, or 5.
Yeah, no, he had 2 or 3 games in a row where he had 6 catches for like 80 yards and a touchdown. And it was like, okay, so we're finally seeing something from Cole Kmet. They bring in DJ Moore. So he's for sure going to be the number 1. Darnell Mooney is still there. Chase Claypool might actually get some playing time for getting, them trading a 2nd-round pick for him. You'd think they'd give him some playing time. But I think that he is like a lot of the tight ends where there's a bunch of receivers there and he just doesn't have that top. I guess you said you finished top 5 in the last 8 weeks, but they added some pieces. So I don't think he has the upside of some of the other players.
Perhaps the tight end who saw his stock killed the most in the offseason, Dawson Knox.
I'm going to put him in below average. I think that he has that extension, so he's going to be there for a while. I think that he's going to be more of the prototypical tight end for football, so I don't think he's going to be as great for fantasy. However, if he's got the contract, you can't put him in bad. I think he's still got some upside if Kincaid doesn't work out at all, or if they put him out in the slot.
Sam Laporta.
So I might be one of the biggest Sam Laporta fans. I just drafted him in a startup, and I'm going to put him in the good tier with Kincaid. I have him really close to Kincaid in my tight end rankings. I think I have him only 2 spots below. So I'm going to put him in good. He's one of my favorite tight ends coming out. He was my tight end 2 pre-draft, and then he got the tight end 2 draft capital. I was so happy. So I'm really looking forward to see what he can do next year.
He was my tight end 2, and I love the landing spot. And I said, this is great. I'm going to draft him everywhere in the 2nd round. Problem is his ADP moved into like the 111, and I didn't end up with any of them because I don't think I've ever drafted a tight end in the 1st round of a rookie draft. The year Kyle Pitts was going, I didn't have a pick high enough to get him, but maybe Bowers will change that next year. But in rookie drafts, I'm never taking a tight end in the 1st round.
Yeah, me neither. And fortunately for me, my most owned rookie is Sam Laporta now after this draft that I'm doing currently. But honestly, I've been getting him 202, 203 early in the draft. I got him at 306. So,
well, and that's 306 was awesome, but I was even comfortable taking him in the early to mid second. I'm just not taking him at 111, 110, or 112. I'm not.
Yeah, the earliest I've taken him is 203, and one person took him 110. And like you said, I'm not taking him that early. No tight end is worth that draft, that pick capital.
My tight end 1 in the rookie class, Michael Mayer.
I'm going to put him right there with the good category. I think all 3 tight ends belong in that category because they have good upside. I think he's actually the best tight end in the class because he can block, and he showed that he's the best. He was the best receiver on his team at Notre Dame, leading the team in receiving yards, I believe, the last 2 years. So I think he's got the upside. I had him as my tight end 3 pre-draft, but he's right below Sam Laporta in my rankings. So they're all right neck and neck for me.
The ever-confusing David Njoku.
Ooh, that's tough. I think that the Browns plan on passing a little bit more. However, they bring in Elijah Moore, so it's tough. That average tier is just getting clogged up, but I think I have to throw him an average. There's just so many weapons there. I don't know if there's
You
much
should
upside
see what it looked like for wide receiver. Wide receiver, good and average, had a second row started underneath them. There were so many people in it. I'm impressed you're actually spread out. Yeah, you're actually spread out more than I thought you'd be. I thought there'd be 2 elite, maybe 1 or 2 great, and then the other 20 people in good versus average. So you're spread out more than I thought. Chigo Okonkwo. Love this guy.
I'm gonna put him in average as well, but I think you could see some people putting him in good based on the fact that there's no one else on the Titans. I'm not a big fan. I'm getting big Albert O vibes from Chig, from just his value rising because everyone's like, oh, he's a sleeper, go buy him. And it's like, if everyone's buying him, then realistically he's not a buy anymore. So no, I think he's a solid tight end.
The leagues where I have him, I was smart enough to pick him up on waivers last year. I'm not buying at his current price, but I have more than a few shares of him. Just of either I drafted him in rookie leagues last year because of his athleticism, or like I said, I scooped him mid-season on waivers, and I'm glad I held him.
I would say I don't know who. I'm curious on your end. Who do you have higher, Chig or Dulcich? Because I've been seeing a big debate about that lately. Chig, okay. I have Dulcich higher personally, just because he's the better player and he performed better last year alone. So I'm gonna go with Dulcich, but they're right neck and neck for almost everybody.
Now an interesting one. Actually, we have a couple of interesting ones left. Kyle Pitts.
I have to throw him into elite. I just have to for dynasty purposes. Well, he showed us as a rookie with a 1,000-yard season. I'm gonna bank on the fact that he'll step it up this year. I go back and forth. I think Desmond Ritter's going to hurt the value of one of Drake London or Pitts, and I go back and forth. But right now, I think it's going to hurt London. I just don't think that he can feed both of them as well as Bijan Robinson. But I think Pitts will show off again. I think it was catches over 20 yards last year. He only caught 1 of 14. So the odds of that happening again are very unlikely, and that was all with Marcus Mariota. So it's a completely different quarterback for him. I like him still in the elite category.
Dalton Schultz.
Ooh, that is an interesting one. I was a big Dalton Schultz fan with Dak Prescott, but now he's on to the Texans where they have absolutely nothing, and he could be the target leader there. I'm going to put him in the good category. That might be a little a shocker for some people, but I think that he has a very good chance of being the target leader there.
No, I think he's good. They paid decent money to get him, and who's a better check down valve for a rookie quarterback than a tight end? I think he'll be good.
Well, I'm saying then the other options are Nico Collins, who's been okay in his career. John Mechie, who hasn't played
Xavier
a game
Hutchinson, yet. Tank Dell.
Yep. The
Robert
rookies,
Woods. So. Yeah. Irv Smith.
Oh, the annual Bengals tight end that always ends up raising in value. I just have to throw him an average, I think.
I loved him in Minnesota, but he just never stays healthy and never comes around.
Yeah, and that would mean that this is his year to. They always take tight ends that always underperform, and then they perform in the Bengals offense. But I think there's upside there. It's just we haven't seen anything from him yet.
And to finish it off, Darren Waller.
I'm gonna plant my flag. I'm gonna put him in great. I think that I think he's one of the best tight ends, and I know he's 30, but I think he's still got 3 or 4 years, and I believe he will easily be the target leader there. The rest of the wide receivers are all a mixed bag of slot receivers, so I think Darren Waller is going to be that de facto wide receiver at tight end. So,
yeah, it's I think the only thing I'm noticing here, so it's pretty solidly consistent top 3. Then you have your mix of the older guys coming in for tier 2 at Goddard, Kittle, Hawkinson, Waller. Then is where it gets interesting in the good tier. You've got Evan Ingram, Dalton Schultz, who they've both kind of done something. And then you've got the 3 rookies. And then average is where it's literally, this is just the tight end dependent, up and down, inconsistent group. And then after that, it falls right off. So it's every year we say tight end's deeper this year, but I don't think tight end's going to be deeper this year because in this good tier alone, you've got 5 in the good tier of Ingram, Kincaid, Laporta, Mayer, and Schultz. I would imagine at least 2 or 3 of those are going to be absolute busts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I would actually, if I had to predict which ones it was, I would say it's probably Ingram, and just based on next year, the hype, I'd say it might be even Kincaid based on what we're seeing for hype. So
and then you get to the average tier, and out of the average tier, 4 out of those 8 are likely to probably be outside the top 12 too. So it's really dicey. So tight end is not going to be deep this year.
And the inverse effect of that is, we have tight ends that we aren't even talking about that probably are going to end up in the top 24 next year.
Yeah, that seems to happen every year. All right, Drew. Well, thanks for joining me. You want to take another chance here to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you having me on. Hopefully have you on again at some point, or have me on again at some point. You can find me at Dynasty Drew FF on Twitter, and then I'll be writing for the FF League winners from now on, so you can find all my work there. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, everyone. This has been My Tiers, the Dynasty tight end class with Dynasty Drew FF. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again to Drew for joining me, and thank you, everyone, for watching. Take care.